How are you, ladies and gentlemen? Can you believe that we are just 1 week away from the Bulls season opener? Yes, by next week's Hot Takes video, we will be a few hours away from the tip-off of the regular season. I absolutely cannot wait. Now, if you're new to the channel, every Wednesday I feature and react to your Bulls hot takes, so feel free to leave any takes you have in the comments below, and I just might include them in next week's video. Also, guys, in case you missed it, I was very fortunate enough to be a guest on the Locked On Bulls podcast hosted by Matt Peck and Big Dave Watson. Those guys are incredible. They have a daily podcast that is solely dedicated to the Bulls. If you haven't listened to their podcast before, make sure you do so. You will not be disappointed. I'll leave a link to their podcast and the episode from yesterday that I was on discussing my thoughts on the Bulls in the description. But anyway, with all that being said, let's get into this week's hot take, shall we? So what's going on, everyone? You were listening to Bull Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Let's get us kicked off with our first hot take, which comes to us from Oliver Yase. I think this is the time the Bulls should pull off the biggest trade to make the team a championship team. They have a group who can be a playoff contender, and I think they are missing one piece to make them a true championship contender. Trade for Cat. Send Vucevic, a future first-round pick, Coby White, and Troy Brown Jr. for Karl-Anthony Towns, and that makes them an instant contender. Wow. Well, I like the creativity here, but I have a few problems with this trade. First of all, I don't know if I can honestly say that Karl-Anthony Towns is better than Vucevic. Yes, Cat is younger, so that is a big benefit for the Bulls, but Cat is also on a much larger contract, and honestly, their skills are very similar. They're both big men that can rebound very well, post up, but also spread the floor and knock down threes, and they're also solid passers for being big men, but they also don't play the best defense. So I don't really see how Karl-Anthony Towns would make the Bulls instant title contenders, but Vucevic wouldn't. Now, if this was a straight trade of Vucevic for Cat, that would be different because the fact that Cat is 6 years younger, fits Lavine's timeline, would be a win for the Bulls. But you're also talking about throwing in a first-round pick, Coby White, and Troy Brown Jr. Now, that's too much. And, really, all of that given up for Cat doesn't really make a lot of sense for the Bulls because I don't know if it really actually makes them better than what they are right now. I mean, the Bulls don't really have a first-round pick to begin with, first of all, unless you're talking about the first-round pick they received in the Lauri Markkanen trade, which is lottery protected. And I've said this before, but the two most valuable trade assets the Bulls have outside of the starting lineup is Coby White and Troy Brown Jr., just because they're both young and with upside potential and still on cheap rookie scale contracts. So in short, no, I don't think this trade makes sense for the Bulls. I think Karl-Anthony Towns is an incredible player, but he's not that much better than Vucevic that it would make us instant title contenders if we were to trade for him. Next, we've got EJP. If Ayo continues his good play, we most likely see Coby traded by mid or off season. Well, I've said it before, if Ayo stands out and takes advantage of getting some minutes while Coby is out to start the season, and really, and this is the most important thing that would lead to Coby being traded, is if Coby struggles to find his rhythm coming back from his injury and starts looking like, I would be the better player coming off the bench because of his confidence, but also added defense as well, then yeah, Coby is going to look somewhat expendable, and the Bulls may look to move him by the deadline to get some assets in return, preferably for some big man depth. But I don't think it's likely to happen because I think Coby will come back just fine, and the Bulls are going to need his scoring off the bench more so than what Ayo can bring, especially as a rookie, at least for this upcoming season. Going forward might be a different story. Next, we've got T-Mac. Lonzo and Lavine will be the splash bros of the East. They will both average 40% from three on at least 5 attempts per game. Well, I won't deny that it's certainly possible for Lavine and Lonzo to average 40% from three or even better. I mean, Lavine already averaged near 42% from three last season on over 8 attempts per game. The question is more Lonzo, who, continues to improve his three-point shot, but he still is a bit under 40%. He was averaging near 38% last season, but it was also on over 8 attempts per game. But, with the way that Lonzo has been shooting it in the preseason, yes, I think he can average 40% from three. But comparing them to Steph and Clay, which I know you didn't directly do, but to say that they're the splash bros of the East, they likely would have to be even better than 40% to kind of match those rates at which we saw Steph and Clay do in their heyday. I mean, they were averaging close to 45% from three, which is actually a big difference, especially considering how many three attempts they were putting up during that time period. Next, we've got Fook 12. I'm gonna say it's Fook anyway. And this is from the Discord. Be sure to join the Discord if you're interested. But the take is, if Javonte Green keeps playing like this, P. Will is on the bench. Yeah, no. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm loving what I'm seeing from Javonte Green in the preseason, but we do have to remember it is just the preseason. And even if Green does continue with this level of play, the Bulls aren't going to sit out their project, their biggest asset for the future, and slow down his development to have him come off the bench behind Javonte Green. It's just not going to happen. I do hope Green can keep up this level of play because it just makes the Bulls even deeper off the bench, but he's not going to be starting over Patrick Williams, which, by the way, it's looking more likely that Patrick will be available for his debut in the Bulls in their final preseason game on Friday, but we'll have to wait and hear on that one. Next, we've got Russ C. By the end of the season, heading into the playoffs, the starters will be Caruso, Lavine, Lonzo, P. Will, and Vooch. This will help us defensively in the starting lineup. The bench mob will consist of Coby, Troy Brown Jr., Ayo, DeMar, and Tony Bradley. I mean, I get what you're saying here, and yes, this would make for a much more balanced roster between offense and defense among the two units, but DeMar isn't coming off the bench. You're not going to pay a guy $85 million to come off the bench. DeMar wouldn't stand for it, and unless DeMar just absolutely plays trash basketball, which I sincerely hope won't be the case, Billy Donovan isn't going to bench him either. Next, we've got the Black Jackal Extra Spicy Hot Sauce take. Okay, there's Stacey King, but we'll start off the season 7-3. I honestly don't even know if this is that much of a hot take, especially an extra spicy take as you put it. I mean, the Bulls' first 5 games are going to be pretty easy. They could easily kick off the season going 5-0, facing the Pistons twice, the Pelicans, the Raptors, and the Knicks all in their first 5 games. The question mark is going to be their next 5 games, where they will be taking on the Jazz, the Celtics, the Sixers twice, and the Nets. Like, it's very possible they could lose all of those games. I don't think that they will, but it's possible. But assuming they can win the first 5, yeah, I think they can manage to go 2-3 in the following 5 games and start off the season 7-3. Next, we've got Spitfire. Obviously, would never wish an injury on anyone, but if Alex Caruso got injured, it would be more detrimental to the team's success than if DeMar DeRozan gets injured. It's funny because when I was first reading that, I was like, no way. How could an injury to Caruso be more detrimental than a guy like DeRozan? And knock on wood, by the way, that neither of these happened. But then as I thought about it more, there is something to be said about Caruso's energy and defense and just his general presence in leading the second unit that is kind of priceless. Whereas with DeRozan, the Bulls would still have elite scorers, even if they were to lose him in Lavine and Vucevic. And of course, you still have Lonzo, who's a solid scorer and shot creator as well. I still think, it's a little bit of a stretch because losing a guy like DeRozan and what he brings both in terms of scoring and playmaking would be a major blow for the Bulls. But I get what you're saying in the sense that Caruso is one of those glue guys that brings everything together. And without him, yeah, the Bulls would probably struggle a little bit. Next, we've got the Phoenix Summoner. Trading Daniel Gafford for Tice at the deadline was probably the biggest mistake made under Acme so far. While Tony Bradley is nice, Gafford would have been a perfect hustle rebounder that could have been exactly what the Bulls needed in terms of bench big man presence. Well, first, I need to be clear that the first part of your statement, the front office didn't trade Gafford for Tice. Gafford was actually included in the trade for Troy Brown Jr., which also included Chandler Hutchinson. But aside from that correction, I do agree that really the only misstep so far from this front office since they've been in the role is, in my view, prematurely trading Daniel Gafford. I mean, you guys know me. I've been high on Gafford for a while now, and I think with the limited front court depth the Bulls have now, it would have been great to have someone like Gafford on this team. However, I do think Tony Bradley actually brings a lot of things that Gafford doesn't. He's actually a more versatile scorer in having a post-up game and even a bit of a jump shot, whereas Gafford was much more aggressive in scoring at the basket, generally cleaning up the glass and doing putback dunks. And Tony Bradley is also a better overall defender, whereas Gafford is probably the better shot blocker between the two. So as much as I wish the Bulls would have been able to hold on to Gafford, I actually think that Tony Bradley, that pickup was solid for them. Next, we've got Lewis Marriott. Lonzo will lead the league in assists, averaging over 10 a game. I don't know about Lonzo leading the league in assists. I think that is a bit of a stretch. However, I will say he's going to average more assists than he has in his career, which the most he's previously averaged is 7.2 assists, which was in his rookie season with the Lakers. And I think that, with the talent surrounding him, especially the scoring talent around him, and the Bulls' ability to spread the floor, he's going to be able to get guys a lot of open looks, which will lead to more assists for him. I don't know if he'll be averaging over 10 assists per game, but I think somewhere in the range of 9 to 9.5, I wouldn't be surprised if he were to fall around there. And honestly, even that is a pretty big leap from where he was last year anyway, the more that I think about it. But either way, he's going to have the best passing season of his career just because this roster is really tailor-made for him. Now, I'm going to end it there for this week, guys. Appreciate all of you who submitted your hot takes for this week, and apologies if I wasn't able to get to yours. But if you are still watching, as a reward to those who watched to the very end, I am announcing the 15K giveaway, in which I will be giving a lucky winner 2 tickets to a Bulls game this season at the United Center. Keep in mind, I will only be providing the tickets to the game, so if you do not live in the Chicago area, you're still welcome to win the tickets, but just know that you will have to figure out your own accommodations in getting to Chicago. Now, I'm gonna do this just like last time. I'll be doing a randomized online drawing for the tickets, and to be included in the drawing, you will need to send me a private message on Instagram or Twitter with the words "Get me to the United Center." You can find the links to my Instagram or Twitter below in the description. Now, last time I responded to literally everyone who messaged me to confirm that they had been entered in the drawing, but I won't be doing that this time around as it was way too many people to reply to. Just know that if you message on either of those platforms, you have been entered. But anyway, guys, best of luck to all of you who are entering the drawing, and whoever wins, I'll be announcing the winner on the community tab on Friday. I'll give you guys 24 hours to enter by submitting your message to me and then announcing the winner on Friday's video. As always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again to all of you for getting the channel to 15,000 subscribers. I appreciate every one of you. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you in the next.